All right, greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. Man, it took a really long time to just get everything going today. I don't know why. Everything was just super slow. Rockfin was slow. Rockfin, well, made me sign in prior, and somehow that was a problem. Blah, blah, blah. Anyways, the gremlins and the what do you want to call them? Um, the poltergeist, I think, is what I was trying to find. The poltergeist is trying to get me. But how are you? Good to see you. Welcome. And we're live on YouTube, Rockfin, and on Callin. You know you can call into the show on Callin. It's kind of fun. It's fun. You should try it. Oh, you know what I did? I didn't do the thing that I was supposed to do. That's okay. Apparently Callin has like a video feature now, and I just haven't had the bandwidth, the power to actually get it going. But I don't, or even to try it out, or even to see if it's going to do anything for me. What would be really cool is if Callin, and I don't know if this is true or not. I think Callin only works on your phone. And man, if Callin worked on a web browser, and maybe I'm late to the party or something. If Callin worked on a web browser, ooh-wee, that would be fun. Because then I could just stream to Callin. It would actually solve a lot of problems if I could stream to Callin on my web browser and not on my phone. That would be kind of cool. Because doing the whole phone thing is a little bit. It took a lot even to just figure out how to hook it up, but trying to stream something to my phone and to my computer at the same time is kind of slightly annoying. So if it was just on my browser, man. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, hint, hint, Callin. But maybe I'm late. Again, maybe I don't even know that something is available. I've tried. I've tried to, go live on my web browser. It won't let me. Anyways, I got a tip from Obsolete Optics yesterday after hours. Thank you, Obsolete Optics. I appreciate that. Very kind of you. Very kind. All right. Let's talk about some things. I tried to keep it a little more concise today, slightly more concise, because a lot on my plate, a lot going on. Not only in the world itself, but in my particular world, there's a lot going on. All right. Anyways, this is from Professor Elliot Jacobson, a very small but growing community that realizes that policy emerging from either mainstream view will invariably lead to societal collapse and or extinction of the human race. What? Well, let's find out. I don't know. Daily Beast is about as partisan as, say, Zero Hedge, right? Only on the left. So some people might raise an eyebrow at reading something from the Daily Beast, but whatever. The UN's, well, let's read the headline. What happens when even scientists get doom-pilled? Doom-pilled. We might be at a point where even climate experts will say we're effed. The UN's yearly climate summit, COP27, kicked off this week in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, with shockingly bleak message from Secretary General Antonio Guterres. And I heard somebody like mocking the UN chief saying this and that this is, but again, you don't have to like the guy, you don't have to like the UN, and you don't have to agree with the UN. Just because you don't like the guy or like the UN or agree with the UN doesn't mean what he's saying isn't true. It just doesn't mean that it's not true based on, right? Because you don't deny information just based on the source. You deny information based on whether it's true or not, based on observation, based on data and evidence and all that, right? Right? We know that? Do we know that? Right? Just because I'm reading this from the Daily Beast doesn't mean it's absolutely false right off the bat. Just because I read something from Zero Hedge doesn't mean it's absolutely false right off the bat. Right? Right? Are we clear on that? Anyways, Antonio Guterres says we are in the fight of our lives and we are losing. Greenhouse gas emissions keep growing. That's a fact, which I read yesterday. Global temperatures keep rising. That is also a fact. Our planet is fast approaching tipping points that will make climate chaos irreversible. Also, it's funny because I heard somebody say, well, climate change, they're trying to link climate change to everything. Like it affects everything. It kind of does, dude. If you knew anything about climate change, you would know that that's actually so. Right? Again, if you don't believe in climate change, then it's easy to just shut it out, shut it down, shut it off, tune it out, say, nah. But if you understand the science, if you follow the science of climate change and you understand how all pervasive it is, how it touches literally every part of our lives, then it wouldn't be such a weird thing for people to link climate change to affecting pretty much everything in your life. That's just not really that. But they were talking about it as if it was crazy. Well, I don't know. Maybe you should understand the science first. Anyways, there would be a need for a radical transformation of society. Oh, let's go back. If that weren't bleak enough, he said we're on a highway to climate hell with our foot still on the accelerator. If that weren't bleak enough, in the lead up to COP27, the UN also released a report that plainly stated that there is now no credible pathway to achieve the lofty goal of keeping global temperature rise below 1.5 degrees Celsius. I'm going to pick this apart, and I hope I don't annoy people, though 2 degrees C is still within reach. Okay, so there's a lot to say about that sentence because they're trying to dangle the hope, because we're going to hit 2C. I mean, it's a done deal. We're not avoiding 2C. There's just no way that's going to happen. I'm sorry. And, unless something super magical happened, we are not avoiding 2C. So they're lying to you about that while telling you the truth about 1.5, which was the barrier that we must not cross. We must never cross 1.5. And now it's like, well, that's a done deal. They're allowing that to be so without allowing the 2 degrees to be so, or saying we still have a chance. A bit of a mixed message, if I may. But my other thing that I wanted to bring up is if you're painting such a bleak picture around climate change, does it make sense to, and you could look at this from a bunch of different angles, but it doesn't make sense to do all these mitigation efforts, in the name of we're going to avoid certain catastrophe if you're already like, well, we're certain for catastrophe. And I'm saying this because at the same time, it makes their dire predictions actually make, the instigation or the initiation of all these rules and things and stuff we're going to do, and carbon markets, and kicking farmers off their land, and all the things that they might possibly roll out to mitigate climate change. If we're already doomed to certain disaster, what's the point in going forward with all that? From the viewpoint of the, let's say I'm on the side of the politicians. And even from the people that are skeptical about climate change or about the UN and what they're going to do, it's just like, well, at some point the predictions and the reality of it gets so dire that, it just makes, I don't know, it makes the initiation of these like quote unquote planet saving agendas, makes it a little bit silly, right? It starts to look a little silly if we're already at disaster's door. And if you thought that, you'd probably be right? If you were of that mind, join the crowd. Join one of the few, soon to be many. Well, let's read on. Anyways, whatever. I don't know if I made my point very well there, but I guess their point is that a radical transformation of society would need to happen in order to keep below 2C. And again, So we're all on the Death Star right now. We all know about the vulnerability with the exhaust port, but nobody seems to want to fix it, and the rebels are on the way. If you think that this represents a stark shift in climate messaging from one of optimism and hope to one of unavoidable death and destruction, you're not alone. I guess the point I was trying to make previously is that, well, this is, this seems to be closer to the reality of what is really happening with climate change, and it does kind of do away with we can still avoid it, and we can still do all these things. If everybody just buys an electric car and a gas and energy saving appliances and nice light bulbs, if we all do that, then we can save the planet. It's kind of the trend of climate doomerism has been on the rise in recent years, typified by a bleak outlook and general hopelessness when it comes to climate change news. Instead of believing that we can do something to prevent climate disaster, doomers believe that there's no hope, especially since world leaders have shown time and again that they'd rather kowtow to the fossil fuel industry. And, well, sure. There are even whole ecosystems of the internet, dedicated to doomerism from Twitter community. Where are these people? To podcasts and even to the good old-fashioned blogosphere. Jeffrey McFarland happens to be involved in all three branches. The self-described climate activist is also the founder of the Doomers Cafe blog and podcast of the same name. Both are meant to voice unpleasant truths into the realm of public discourse when it comes to climate change, he said. To him, there are essentially two kinds of conversations surrounding climate change. Oh, good on Jeffrey, by the way, for getting featured in the Daily Beast. Here. Two kinds of conversations surrounding climate change. First, there's the established one where conservatives on the right deny or downplay the existence of a climate crisis and refuse to do anything, and liberals on the left say that there's plenty of cause for concern, but believe it can be easily fixed through initiatives like transitioning away from fossil fuels to renewable energy. The other conversation, the third rail conversation, is more grim, a very small but growing community that realizes that policy emerging from either mainstream view will invariably lead to societal collapse and or extinction of the human race. Sure. McFarland told the Daily Beast, these are the climate alarmists, pejoratively referred to as doomists or doomers. It's easy to see why doomerism has been so pervasive when it comes to discourse surrounding climate change. Scientists have been harping on the exact same issues for decades, only to see their warnings decried as a cynical political ploy in order to scare up votes for Democrats. A misinformation industrial complex of climate denialism has emerged, dedicated to maligning and discrediting facts and data provided by scientists. And that is also very true. And misinformation or disinformation is now gone mainstream. And then there's the other one, we're not going to talk about this tactic, right? It's not misinformation or disinformation. It's just ignoring the problem so that nobody has to think about it or talk about it, which happens pretty much every single day on mainstream news, right? Wow, would you believe this weather? Wow, this is a really big hurricane, and didn't coming right on the heels of the other big, really big hurricane that just happened like last week. Man, these heat waves are out of control. Man, these cold fronts are really out of control. Man, you know what? This drought is really out of control. Wow, the Mississippi River is really low, but nobody even says climate change. You know, in that conversation, they just are remarking on like what crazy weather we're having. That's called ignoring the problem, or hoping nobody will bring it up. The powers that be simply do not care. Any efforts from these leaders to show that they might care comes up woefully short. Climate and COP27, for example, climate activists like Greta Thunberg see the conference as cynical, virtue signaling greenwashing event led by wealthy nations. But the event is also rife with hypocrisy. For example, the summit drew a lot of criticism due to the fact that it's sponsored by Coca-Cola, the world's leading plastic polluter. Well, I think it should garner that criticism, right? Anyways, it looks bad. And then farther down the article, somebody says, in order to stay below 1.5 C. Okay, come on, man. Come on. Emissions need to fall 45% in the next 7 and a bit years. Well, for one, we're not staying below 1.5 C. Two, even if we could, we're not falling by 45% in 7 years. That's not going to happen. So there's that. Unless the global economy collapses, unless, something really drastic happens, unless extreme weather, blows out, a good portion of the agriculture on the planet in the next 7 years. And we have, massive famine, starvation, hunger, thirst, and the economic collapse that will bring. It's just not going to happen. But that scenario is actually a distinct possibility. It's a very it's high on a probability chart, I think, and plenty of other people think that as well. Is that me saying it's going to happen in the next 7 years? No, I'm just saying it's high on the probability chart. There's also a possibility that everything may continue kind of bumping along like we've been doing. Who knows? And then they go on, then this is, Daily Beast is living up to their, lefty propaganda bona fides, right? Because they got to end the story with, well, most climate scientists will tell you there's plenty of time if we just do the right things. Which actually, didn't we just read a study the other day that this kind of messaging actually reinforces complacency and makes people go like, that's cool. We got some time. Meanwhile, I think I'll plan for my cruise this winter. Oh, that's going to be fun. Right? Yeah. And then they end up, I'm quite convinced that we still control how bad it's going to be. This is, who is this? Oh, just some dude, some climate guy from Texas A&M University. Isn't that where Katharine Hayhoe is? Well, it certainly looks bad, but golly gee, if we just, learn to live right. If we just learn to live right, just a little better, if we just just say no to that plastic straw at the In-N-Out. Well, I certainly think we can solve climate change. These are people that are completely disconnected and divorced from physics and math. And they call themselves climate scientists, and they actually hold positions at universities, which goes to tell you that it's nice to be an educated person. It's nice to read a lot of books or know a lot of things, and like you can do that without going to college. And certainly there are plenty of very intelligent people in colleges, but it goes to show you that you can hold a degree, an advanced degree, and know absolutely jack shit about anything, or be completely divorced from reality, so divorced from reality that nobody should ever listen to what you have to say ever. Right? There are plenty of those people as well. So, you know, it's nice when scientists can pop in and give a word, but which scientists, which one are they? Are they scientists that tell you the truth? Or are they scientists that want to cash a paycheck? And there are both in this world, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean that's just bonkers. That's just completely bonkers. All right. Let's move on. How did I have wasted a better part of the show? I haven't wasted any time whatsoever. This is what the show is about. Just all right. We have a call from Francisco. What's up, Francisco? How you doing? I think you got to unmute yourself, sir. All right, Francisco, unmute. Oh, let's see. I'm trying to take a call from Francisco. Maybe he's trying to call in. Oh well, or not. I guess that didn't work out. Oh, he's back. All right. Well, Francisco, if you want to call in, please feel free, but you got to unmute yourself when you do. I know the buttons are close together. For some people, it's hard to press the unmute button without taking yourself out of the call.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How's it going?
Awesome. Hi, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How you doing? What's going on?
Yeah, fine. I'm calling from the UK.
Okay, right on.
I'm just new to this app and just basically checking things out. And
yeah,
what I really like is people can converse, like human beings.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was just listening into the topic that you were just discussing just now about fake scientists.
Yes.
And I think we're living in a world now where it's the fake scientist who accuses other people of what they're doing.
Right. of lying, right? Yeah, or misinforming people.
Yeah, so basically it's them who's doing the misinformation.
Sure.
And then you got a situation where they accuse everybody else who's against them of what they're actually doing. I think George Orwell described it very well in his book, and he calls it the doublespeak.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I mean it's kind of strange times we live in for sure. And yes, truth is lies, lies are truth.
Yes.
Up is down, etc. Yeah.
So we're all in this boat together, and every now and again you find people who's sensible, and then you connect, but it's very easy to give in to cynicism or bitterness or hatred, to just hate everybody and not trust anybody at all. And so I think that's the wrong direction to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, so in terms of vectors, how do you see things moving forward from here?
I kind of live my life as if anything can happen, and so I'm a I'm a never say never kind of person, but I can see the trajectory that we're on, and it's not a great one. It's not good. The reality of the trajectory we're on is one of societal collapse or crashing into a brick wall. Like that's where we're going, um, economically, and the biosphere is showing signs of having some serious problems, and there's no at this moment there's no signs of collective will to really like grapple with these problems. I mean, I'm seeing people in Europe like get out and protest,
Yeah.
the war and the WEF and like things like that, and that's very, uh, uh, that causes me to have some hope. I like seeing that,
Hmm.
but in the U.S., like we don't protest anything. I mean,
Yeah.
we're very very complacent. We are
You've
extremely complacent.
well, you've been under a terrible thing with the January 6th event,
Right.
wherein a lot of people, I think, because I'm in social media, I read what people are saying and that, and you, a lot of people, I think, are scared of protesting these days because then the state has come after those who would wish to
Mm-hmm.
outwardly express their views publicly,
Right.
you know,
Right.
in such a way that it's outside the bubble of media, for example. So if you're out there on the streets, the media can't stop you, you see.
Sure.
But if they're happy if it's in the social media, for example, or in any media wherein they have control,
Mm-hmm.
because then they could control who can receive those messages.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're out there on the streets, they can't control you. People will hear what you're saying, and it will continue to plant the seeds in people's minds, and they can't have that. And that's why they went hard against on it, I think. I wonder what your opinion is on that January 6th event, because I think that's what you've just said about people protesting.
Oh well, I actually just talked a little bit about it yesterday, but I mean, I think it was. I mean, my personal opinion. And I'm live on YouTube right now, so I don't know if I can get you know too into it.
I got you. I
So
got you. Yeah, so this is what I
my
mean. So
personal
you,
my
you're
personal
basically
opinion my
hindered
personal opinion
at
on
some
it.
level.
Yeah, no, you're
So
hindered
please,
because
please don't say anything that will put your
right,
channel in some sort
right.
of.
Usually I get off of YouTube before I start talking about it. So I will say though.
Let's
So let
not.
me let
Let's
me
not.
let, let me just tell you this. Christopher
Okay.
Wray, FBI director, was asked yesterday in Congress if if he had assets dressed up as Trump supporters inside the Capitol in January 6th, and he said, "I'd rather not say." So you can take what you want from that. I'm just relaying what the FBI director said, which was,
Yeah.
I don't want to say I don't want to incriminate myself by giving you an answer on this.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Yeah.
That I mean,
Well, there, like
you can extrapolate a lot from that statement.
mhm. We're in a situation where there are things that we can't say, and if there's things that we can't say, there are things that we can't think, and that's very very dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I um, the powers that be are looking for ways or reasons to to pretty much outlaw protest and dissuade, to have people too scared to actually say what they feel, say what they think, go out and fight for their
So
cause. So yeah.
I wonder if I could get your opinion on, if you don't mind me. This probably is my last question, so I don't take
Okay.
so much of your channel's time. What then do you think should people protest or should people not protest? What ways forward in terms of freedom of thought and freedom of speech? How is it going to look like in your opinion?
Um, well, that is a tough one because I don't want to tell people what the way in which they should protest. I think that any and all forms of protest should be fair game, right?
As long as it's peaceful.
Sure.
Mm.
Yeah, as long as it's peaceful. Yeah, I don't encourage anybody to go out and cause violence or whatever. But I'm just saying, I protest energy is energy that needs to happen. Much more these days, and unfortunately, the penalty for protesting, they're trying to make the penalty for protesting, much stronger,
Oh
much
man.
harder.
I mean, if you
So,
if you read those people who's been involved in the January 6th, and I'm not saying they're right or wrong,
mhm.
but basically, I think some of them might have just the pure intentions just to protest,
Yeah,
and they probably did something little over a misdemeanor, for example, and the amount of um, the amount of the
the
books
punishment did
thrown
not
on yes,
the
the
punishment
punishment.
did not fit the crime.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's
Well, and that's happened with
it's
that's
really
happening
is.
with other forms of protest where they're really ramping up the penalties, right? Even for environmental protests, for all kinds of protests, they're trying to make it the penalty so harsh that people are like, yeah, I don't know. And then the shutting down, the eventual shutting down of people's ability to like make money, right, or get paid, or get
Yeah,
funding, or get
yeah,
right.
but I mean,
So all these things are
I'm
being controlled and restricted for people
yeah,
who.
and just to give you a little bit of perspective, I'm from the Philippines. I grew up in the Philippines. I migrated to the UK to work and stuff like that. And when I was growing up, we were under an American sort of way of westernized thinking, where you're free to think, you've got this freedom of speech and all that. And we've always seen America as this shining city on a hill, like where freedom is and
Mhm.
loud and freedom of thought. And it's just so sad to see how things are.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's really is quite a thing.
yeah. Well, hey Francisco, I gotta
Anyway,
let you go,
it's
man.
really a pleasure speaking
Yeah,
with you.
yeah. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, man.
It's got to get back to covering a
All right.
couple of things
Cheers,
before I
buddy.
get out of here. But yeah, thanks, man. All right, this was a good call from Francisco. Uh, let's see. Where are we going? What are we doing? I feel like I need to jump off of YouTube pretty soon, but before I do, I'm just we were talking about Australian floods yesterday. This isn't the ocean or a lake. It's devastating flooding in central New South Wales, where water stretches as far as the eye can see, and that is an amazing amount of water in Australia. Floods, 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 droughts, fires, floods. That's where we're at in the climate crisis. Continual, escalating droughts, fires, floods. Poppy Davis, by 2050, sea level along contiguous U.S. coastlines will rise as much or more than 12 inches above today's waterline. That's way more than they were predicting a couple of years, 10 or 20 years ago. According to researchers who analyzed nearly 3 decades of satellite observations. Anyways, rising sea level could exceed estimates for U.S. coasts. Right, worse than expected, faster than expected. This is always happening today. And it's not, again, for the folks that are like, nah, the climate change, nah, folks. I mean, I don't know. These things are actually really happening in real life. So I don't know how you deny, like, real world observations and quantifiable actual events happening on the planet. I don't know how you can continue to say that nothing is happening, or where's this climate change they were predicting? I don't know, dude. Have you been paying attention? Anyways, but we know it's getting worse very quickly, and but just another piece of data and evidence there. All right. I am going to. Well, let me play this because this is a pretty Turncoat Don. This is the guy that's been making the good Jimmy Dore videos. Made this video titling it "The Recipe for the Collapse of an Empire," and this is kind of summing up what I've been saying for a really long time, right? Every single week, well, $3 billion more for Ukraine, $25 million for Ukraine, $200 million for Ukraine. How about some more money for Ukraine, right? Meanwhile, no student debt relief for you, no health care for you. We can't seem to pass any kind of anything for anybody, the Democrats say, because, parliamentarian blobbity boop bop Joe Manchin, we can't do anything about climate. We can't do anything for anybody, but we certainly can continue to funnel money to Ukraine every single week without pause. And meanwhile, everybody can see this happening. Like literally everybody can see this, and I'm betting, and I would win this bet, that most people are like, yeah, no. I'm not okay with this. I'm not so much down with this. There are a few maniacs out there that are still like, yeah, the economy's falling apart, everything is falling apart in everybody's lives, and the government keeps on taking away your stuff, but man, we got to support those Ukrainians. There's a few of those people that are still out there. But man, it's starting to get a little bit threadbare, right? Like if you can't see that the emperor hasn't got any clothes on, I suggest you take your glasses off. Anyways, let's listen to this and watch this, I guess.
Congress taking quick action, approving a $13 billion deal to help Ukraine. School districts across our area tell us they're seeing significant increases in children that are homeless.
I'm announcing another $800 million to further augment Ukraine.
A revealing look at homelessness among the middle class.
U.S. have announced new military assistance for Ukraine. They've promised an extra $713 million.
We experienced as a county a 22% increase in homelessness.
The Senate overwhelmingly passing a new $40 billion Ukraine aid bill.
We are learning the homeless problem we are seeing in Knoxville is growing at an alarming rate.
The U.S. is sending an additional $700 million in military aid.
We're in dire straits. We don't know where we're going to go. We have no savings. The U.S. is sending an additional $1 billion in weapons and aid to Ukraine.
The CEO of the Coalition for the Homeless of Central Florida tells me this is a scary trend.
Pentagon announcing today it's sending a new $450 million military package to Ukraine. Tonight we are going in depth on the issue of homelessness, of course, a growing problem here in Colorado. The U.S. sending an additional $400 million in military aid.
Rising housing costs and inflation are leading to more people living on the street.
The United States is sending another $1 billion in military aid.
69,000. That's how many people are homeless across LA County.
A new aid package is going to be announced tomorrow, including an additional $3 billion to train and equip Ukrainian forces.
Sacramento's homeless population had a jump of 67%. The White House now asking Congress for more than $13 billion in additional military aid. More than 2,500 students within the district don't have a place to call home. Yeah, Katie, and that's 1,000 more from last year.
Well, the Biden administration preparing to send another $600 million military package to Ukraine.
There's a stark warning from city officials tonight as they're seeing a record number of families out on the streets.
$275 million to meet Ukraine's critical security and defense needs.
One LA County city is close now to declaring a state of emergency over homelessness.
The White House is also asking for $37.7 billion to fund the war in Ukraine.
Housing prices are up 17% from the previous year, and you can see the fallout of that just right behind me here.
Yeah. Good stuff. Turncoat Dawn. I liked it. Had to play it because it's kind of just summing up what I've been saying like every single day for a long time. All right, YouTubers, I'm going to continue the last couple minutes of the show on Rockfin. Rockfin, ROKFIN.com. Please hang out with me on Rockfin. You don't even have to create an account to watch. You can just go over there and watch the show. Or you can hang out with me on Callin. All right.